had dental floss in those days. Or toothpaste, for that matter.
George Washington used to eat little girls.
Tastes like chicken.
Finger looking good.
You look disgusting.
Washingtonians meet SWAT team. It should be fun.
I've offended so many people during the course of making this.
The Washingtonians is a very offbeat story which fits into the Masters of Horrors kind of framework. But it's a rather unusual story.
I've heard precious things about you.
At the beginning of the film, there's something on the radio which says that politicians are always manipulating the truth, you know, and nothing is what it seems to be.
And why? I'll tell you why. Because our news is controlled and filtered by our government.
My character goes out to Virginia to take care of his grandmother's estate. She's passed away. He has to take care of the funeral. He has to, gather up our belongings. In the course of it, he goes down to her basement and he finds a letter.
I will skin your children and eat them. Upon finishing, I will fashion utensils out of their bones.
And it's signed GW. Now, in the area that she grew up, GW is very well known because George Washington came from Virginia.
Did you know that George Washington was born around these parts up north?
We meet the guys who want this letter, and these guys are called the Washingtonians. And they're there to preserve Washington's lineage and his history. And they will do anything to keep that.
Give us the letter. We know you have it.
The thing about the Washingtonians is they're cannibals, because George Washington was.
All kinds of mysterious things begin to happen. And then the whole film concludes in this huge kind of feast.
Eat me, you sons of bitches! Don't worry, we will.
I co-wrote this with my partner, Richard Chismar. We had read this short story called Washingtonians by Bentley Little. I think it's been around for maybe 10 years. We wrote a treatment for Masters of Horror. And McGarris thought it was great, and they loved our treatment, and then they hired us to write the screenplay. We wanted to write a man that everyone could relate to and understand.
What would they do if they catch us? Kill us. They need us.
Come on, Mike.
A family man who's always trying to protect his family, who gets caught in a situation where he finds something he thinks is bigger than himself. He has to make a choice between his family or something greater than that. But there is nothing greater than that.
Be very, very careful. You and your family are in grave danger.
Jonathan Shack just fitted perfectly into the story, so it was a natural thing to cast him. He's a very realistic, kind of wonderful actor, very, very good-looking, kind of young American leading man type. It was great for me because I love the writers to be around anyhow. And this way, he could be acting the part and also be there, be present.
Continue with the dialogue on the rope tie.
Sometimes you're in a situation with the writer as an actor or the writer as a director, and every I has to get dotted. It's a real pain in the ass. But in this situation, it's not like that.
What about the letter? Tell the world.
A lot of times while we're filming, we, bug each other and stuff. And sometimes he'll say, "Who wrote this?" And it's like, "You did, buddy, so deal with it."
Fuck, these lines are horrible.
So this is the thing, when he goes down, you grab that arm. And then you have to restrain him here. Okay?
Go to there.
Can you hold that? Great.
Peter Medak is just such a great director. It's just amazing to see what his camera work is like and how he chooses to cover a scene. Really imaginative staging and blocking and coverage. He communicates things very simply and directly and politely.
Okay, let's try one more. Please, sorry, darlings.
Peter Medic helps me with my performance by, if I do a scene and he wants me to be more scared, he shows me in the way that I understand, and it really helps me.
He's obviously at the top, right? So he sets the tone for how the day is going to go and how the shooting's going to go, and he's very open to ideas, very understanding, and has a really nice, subtle way about him. So I think he gets what he needs from the actor because of his approach.
And action.
I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you.
The most important thing that a director can do, he does effortlessly, which is that he gives people an opportunity to fall flat on their face and you feel comfortable. It's a relaxed atmosphere.
I wonder if there's any humor to be gained by the fact that I'm in the middle. You know, them and them.
You read the script and you just go and do your best. You know, it comes to you kind of unconsciously, and you just go with your instinct.
And cut.
The portrait of Washington is very important because it's the only real reference to what Washington looked like. And of course, we couldn't use one of his paintings. We had to paint our own painting. But we tried to paint it as close as it can be to the real thing. And it's very important that it's real. So as far as the audience goes, that is what George Washington was like.
Mike.
The kidnapping in the truck was a tough scene to do because we had to do that in the studio.
This is called a gobo. It's basically just a bunch of random patterns cut into foam core, and we tape it onto these solenoids, and they spin, and we shine lights through them, and it makes it look like you're driving.
It really adds a whole lot of fear, another level to the old masters of horror. If you got Satan continuously pounded into your head at 30 frames per second.
And all kinds of what we call poor man's process, where there are wheels and lights and whirligigs going everywhere to make it look like they're driving on a highway with sodium lights and cars coming towards. You'll see a headlight effect and so on. We're actually in the studio in a stationary van.
Come on, princess. We're not gonna hurt you. That's right, we're just gonna eat you.
When the doors open, that was shot against green screen. This is where you see the Washingtonians feasting lodge for the first time. And we just had it in the background. My favorite Washingtonians moment is doing that first shot where the Steadicam follows the actors in and they're told,
"Welcome to the original feasting lodge of George Washington. We are thrilled to have you for dinner."
And you see this mayhem. You see this body being brought in on a tray and people are chowing down and it's the most bizarre memory I have of the whole season. It was just surreal.
If you're going to do a story about cannibalism, you need a showpiece. You know, you need a scene that really shows how vicious and horrible it can be. So I just suggested that George Washington's feasting lodge still exists and is still in use to this day.
There was a lot of design in this. It was great. There's a scripted painting that we did of George Washington feasting on a human, and a cabinet here that was made that houses all the forks that are made from the original Continental Congress, supposed to be made from their bones. Here's another scripted table, which is meant to be a table that Thomas Jefferson got eaten on. And there's a sketch of a crane shot basically coming out of his guts and goes straight up. No one can be a vegetarian on any of the extras, because they all have to eat the meat that we've hidden in these body parts.
The one thing that Peter Medak wanted was to move the camera around a lot. He wanted to really show off this feast. We had 65 extras dressed as Washingtonians. The difficulty was, how do you walk around? There's 65 people, there's candles everywhere. How do you light it so you can move around the room close to people's backs as they're feasting without any shadows? Well, we put two big, huge, soft space lights up in the ceiling. I put everything extra warm to give it that candlelight feel, warm, yellowy look. And that way, all the shadows were going down to the floor. With this lighting coming from above, it did two things. It made it look like an old painting, and also it enabled us to move the camera any direction without seeing our own shadow.
We'll do one more circle like that, and then I'll do one going the other way, and then that's it. The camera is a magical instrument, and if you know what you're doing, you can make things happen there for real, instead of going to digital effects and stuff like that. Of course, depends what the story you're trying to tell. Action! And cut.
The Da Vinci Code or any kind of film that questions history or tries to change history and makes you think. I thought it was very interesting. I thought, I'm like, George Washington at Cannibal? No way. And I thought, well, you know, it is possible.
The premise itself is kind of ridiculous, but once you take ridiculous premises and you treat them with all seriousness, even though they're absurd, you end up with kind of wonderful horror.
Of course, Washington never was a cannibal, and he was never a bad president, and he was the first great president of the country, you know.
What's this? Huh? Oh, that's the new dollar bill. They swapped Georges. Oh, shit.
In my mind, it's all about George Bush, you know, and one is trying to make a parody of the whole situation. And I hope people will get that.